Hello, hello, hello. Just trying to see if I can get my chat up. And where am I? Here I am. Hi. I don't know why this says it wants me to edit. Oh my goodness. I never know what I'm doing. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you are. Um, Here I am. It's March 31st, and it's a little crazy here today. I was already outside gardening. It's kind of cloudy and nice and cool outside. So I'm a little all over the place, pulling weeds and picking up rocks and doing things like that. So today, oh, let's see, this is sign into chat. I don't know. This thing never works. Um, so today we're going to be putting squares together. And it's super duper easy. So it'll be hopefully like nothing to even really think about. Totally go in there, do what you're going to do. I guess it depends on what your technique, or I'm sorry, the technique that you're going to use is going to depend on what you want your finished object to look like. So I have a few different options here. And I'm also hoping to go ahead and show you guys. Let's see if it's still not working. Why? Open in web browser. We'll see if we can get the chat open. I don't know why it doesn't want to open. That's very weird. Let's see. Top chat, live chat. I don't know. Very strange. But it is live because it says I'm already 2 minutes in. Okay, so we'll just hopefully let that work itself out. So, pin loom squares. So many different things you can do with these. I wanted to show you a few different ways to do this. And one that I'm personally going to use for my next project. So, oh, okay, chat is working. Thank goodness. Okay. It always shows up and it says sign into chat like it's not working. And I'm not using YouTube to make these videos in case you were wondering. So, it does get a little finicky sometimes. So, okay. Here are my squares. You can see I've been trying all different kinds of things and playing around a lot to see how I can go about attaching these things together. But also because I am looking for a very specific way to attach the squares that I have for my shawl, which in all honesty is probably going to be the one that's called for in the pattern. I'm altering the pattern, but I can go ahead and post. There is a pin loom shawl pattern available, and it's free. It's in the archives on the Shack website, and it's the pattern that I'm in general following for my particular shawl. This particular join right here that you see, that is the zigzag join, is what I'm going to be using for my own shawl. But I think it would also be kind of good if you want something that's going to be, has like a little like lacy feel to it. This would be a good technique to use. I have a feeling that this will also be good because thank you. Thank you. Yes, these are my squares. And I'm having so much fun, especially with the variegated ones. They're super fun to use. And I also played around with a little bit of cross stitch on a pin woven square. So this is really fun too. Just making little motifs and what have you. So this is what I'm planning on using for my own personal shawl because I do want it to have some lacy feel to it, but I also feel like this is going to make it actually bigger than I was anticipating, which is good. If you're looking for something a little bit more coverage, if you're making a garment, if you're making something where you don't want to have that lacy feel, you can also attach these like you would a granny square using a crocheted join here on this. Um, you can sew if you have a machine and you want it to make it really easy peasy. There's no reason why you can't just sew these together using a machine or hand sewing. I actually hand sewed this piece right here because I'm also going to show you how to do chickens. So, at least the general shape of a chicken. And then this join right here with these houndstooth squares is just a mattress stitch. And I did it in black and I kept it really flat so that you could see the different stitches going through the squares. And you can do it that way too. So there are so many different ways that you can put these things together. I have seen people make garments, shawls, all kinds of things. If you felt so inclined, you could move this out of the way. You could take a square. Obviously, these are all from my previous lessons on here, but you could take a square and you could sew these together and make little pockets. If you had, let me see if I can grab another square from somewhere, because I have so many laying around. Oh, here, I'll do it with this instead. Okay, so let's say you have these two squares and you've connected them all the way around here. What then you could do is add a third square. You can either seam these up the sides and put a button here and have it so it's kind of open, or what you can do is you can add this square to it. So you have a pouch here, and then you could fold this over, and so it'll be attached like this, and you can make little pouches, and then you could put a little button on here, or some sort of fastener. So maybe tie, make like a little crocheted loop here and put a button on it, and then you can seal it up and you have like a cute little pocket. Really, the possibilities are endless with this stuff. So first things first, for a couple of these joins, you're going to need some basic crochet knowledge. There are a lot of crochet tutorials online, so hopefully you should be able to find what you're looking for. If you're familiar with making granny squares or doing any kind of crochet, these are going to be super duper easy for you. So these are the two crochet ones right here. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to take these two squares here, these green ones. I've got one that's a plain weave and one that's a bias weave. And I want to take these two and I want to connect them in crochet like I would a straight up granny square. So something like this. Okay. And I will try to do this in a contrasting color so you can see what I'm doing. So I have gray. This is just a pale gray sock weight yarn. Most of the things that I've been making have been somewhere in the vicinity of probably DK or Sport. I'm just grabbing literally whatever I have here on my desk. I do have some thicker yarns, but I do want this to be in a light color so you can see what's going on. So what I would do for these two is I would place them together like this. Okay, now you can see with the bias one, the end is very straight. And when you have something in a plain weave, you are going to have these loops here. Now, when I did this one together, I actually sort of staggered the loops on that side. I don't think that that's necessarily something you have to do. That was just what my preference was. So I might go through like this corner here, and then I had this like loop here, and then the next set of loops would be on this side, back and forth and back and forth. I crocheted right into that first like warp right there. So see this orange that's going across? That's where I went into. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue with these two since we do have one straight edge. Okay. So what you would do So you can start it at the end, and hopefully this crochet hook's going to be tiny enough for me. This is a C hook. You know, whatever works for the yarn you're using, however big your squares are. So I'm going to bring up a loop. And I don't know how many people do this. Like, I have a tendency to weave in my end here, see? As I'm going along, I will just tuck it into the part, like the seam. I don't know if everybody does that. I'm kind of assuming they do. Okay, so I'm going to do, well, I'll just do one chain. And then I'm going to go and try to find like the next little part that I can go into, pull up a loop, pull one up, go into this next portion, pull up a loop. And as you can see, really, I'm not being all that precious about it. My general thought process on these is that you should go by eye, right? Does it feel right? Does it look like it's right? Then by all means, do it. There are many different ways, many different techniques for putting these things together. And honestly, you're making a handmade item. Like, y'all know how much we all wing it, right? So you would just go across like this. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go into that last stitch there. Like that. And then I'm going to make a few things here at the end so you guys can see what I've done and I can lay it out for you. This is so, in case anybody's wondering, why are you making a chain at the end there, Stace? That's so I can rip it out easily later without getting my scissors too close to my squares, because I do have projects for these squares that I intend to do later. So here you go. There is, whoops, a crocheted seam. Now, keep in mind, like once you, let's see, how would I do this? I'd probably wet block it. And once you wet block it, it'll stick out a little bit less, but you're still going to have this like three-dimensional seam on top of your squares. Let me hold it sideways for you. Now, please keep in mind, I have not blocked any of these squares. They're just from all of the things I've been doing here. So there you go. That's what it looks like. But as you can see, it does stick up above this. And I was doing, what was that? Like single crochet. You could do slip stitches if you want. Maybe you might have less height or whatever. You know, just it's not hard to do. And as long as you have some crochet skills, you know, like I said, you could just wing it. As you can see here, like you do have this gap here where I've pulled on that first warp. It's fine. It's holding together. You can't really tell. Once you block everything, everything's going to settle into place too. So now this particular bias block is something that I have for my shawl. So I'm very interested to see how I'm going to go ahead and attach my bias shawl pieces with this technique that's up here. I guess we'll come to that when we come to that, but for now, like, this is what this looks like. So here we have two different pieces, and I would say in general, so let's say, for example, let's see what I've got over here. Let's say, for example, you have a bunch of squares and you want to connect them together, and you're going to use the crochet thing. And I know this is so minor, but you never know. Like, some people really overthink these things. And so I'm going to say this even though it's probably like second nature to people. So let's say you have a bunch of squares here. So here are a bunch of squares that I made out of my friend Nicole's fiber mixed with some black. Okay. Now, if I'm putting together a large number of squares, what I would do personally is I would probably, how would I attack this? I'd probably go about doing like these long bits here and then go across this way. I guess it depends, like I said, it depends on how many you're doing, I suppose. But like, if I had all of these, I'd want to make sure that I'm getting the most bang for my buck and I'm not having to weave in a lot of ends. So I would try to do the longest lengths possible. So like, let's say I have, and like, I don't know, somebody might tell me I'm wrong, but this is just the way my brain figures this out, right? So if I've got yarn and I'm wanting to attach all these dudes together here, right? I would try to attach lengths of them. And then once those lengths are attached and everything is kind of like laid out, then I would go across this way. So that way I'm not cutting. Like I said, maybe this is second nature for people, but I feel like it needs to be said. So I'm not crocheting from, like, let's say here to here and then cutting. And then I'm crocheting here to here and then I'm cutting. I would try to do a whole length across, bless you, and then go this way across. So thank you. I hope that makes sense, but like I want to, especially if you're a beginner, I want to save you the heartache of doing like these tiny little sections and then cutting and then having to weave all that in and then just doing that throughout the whole thing. Like, go for long lengths and you should be cool. All right. So with that being said, that's how you do your crochet join. Here it is. Okay. So that's how you do, I should say, that crochet join. So we have that. Now I'm going to show you this crochet join, which you guys is so stupid. It's like so easy. You're going to want to cry. Okay. So one of the things that I did on this, and I don't necessarily think it matters, is that, let's see if I do this, because we're going to be a do as I say and not as I do situation here. Okay. I make a lot of squares. Do I necessarily know which way is the right way up and which way isn't, and which way it was justified on the loom? No, I don't. So what I did, and this is totally a visual thing, I looked at the bumps that were on the edges. Now, when it comes to something like a bias weave, you're not going to have those bumps. Like I said, in all cases, wing it. Y'all are going to be fine. It's going to look gorgeous. So I have these two here, and it looks like the bumps are kind of roughly in the same place. So what if I flop that, right? And then it's like I have, let's do this. I kind of have this weird corner here, and then I've got a bump there, and then I've got these bumps in between these two bumps. And it kind of does this weird zigzag thing anyway, right? So that's how I did this one here. But like I said, you don't necessarily have to do that. Go by eye. Trust your gut. That's super important when you're doing projects, because I find that not a lot of people trust themselves when they do things. And really, it's like your gut's going to tell you, we'll put this one on top. Your gut's going to tell you whether it's wrong or not, right? Just do a little, sit back, live with it for a minute, and be like, is this cool? Okay, yeah, it looks pretty rad. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I have these two pieces held together, and like I said, I alternated the bumps on this end. You don't necessarily have to. but here I made a loop, and then I'm just gonna chain 2. And for this one, I'm not gonna weave that loose end in yet. Chain 2, and then I'm gonna go in between. So where you see these bumps are, right? I'm gonna try to shoot for in between both of these loops. So you want it in. Oh, I'm not even on camera. In both of these loops here on the edge. So let me do that again. You have this loop here that's kind of orangey, and you have this loop here that's kind of yellowy. We're going to go in between those, so you kind of latched onto both of them. We're going to pull up a loop, and we're going to do a single crochet like that. Maybe if I move back a little bit, it'll be more in focus. Then we're going to make another 2 chains, and then we're going to go to this side. And here I have these little green bit and a little orange bit together. I'm going to go straight through the center of both of those 2 and make sure I catch them both. Do a single crochet, chain 2. Let's go back to this side. I've got a red orange bit and a yellow bit right here. So I'm going to go in there. I suppose for this tiny little stuff, I should be making sure I'm on the camera. Okay, so we did that. And you're just going to go back and forth. So here's crochet 2. And single crochet. We're going to chain 2. And we're going to single crochet back here like this. And then we're going to chain 2. Single crochet, and you keep doing that all along your edges, okay? Actually, I'm going to do one more here. Let's do 1, 2, and then I'm going to pop it in this corner piece. In general, what you should do is make sure you're kind of grabbing onto a couple pieces of yarn. Oh, that was an end. That's fine. Here, let's go back. I'm going to grab these 2, and then I'm going to do this. There we go. And that is the effect you get. So you're just going to be doing a single crochet on one end, chain 2, single crochet on the next bit, and alternate up your squares. And then when you block this out, you've got this lacy pattern in between your squares that looks like this. Okay? So that is another crochet join. And like I said, I don't think that it really matters like if everything is just if it's lined up or not. Like I'm gonna look at this here. Oh, funny enough, that's not too bad. Like I could go boom, boom, boom. It doesn't really matter. These are more offset. This one, well, it could, yeah, it's kind of offset. And then I would take, like I said, I would go up as many squares as possible and just do 2 like long lines of squares. And then once I have them laid out the way I need to for that particular side, then I'm going to go up the opposite side. So that way you're not cutting in between every single one. It'll make your life easier. Nobody wants to deal with all of that. So that's that one right there. Easy peasy. I don't know why I haven't done my own yet. So there's that. Okay. The next one I have is this one. Now, I'm going to guess that most people know how to do a mattress stitch, but we could go ahead and do one here if that makes life easier. I get another piece of, I'll get a piece of black. sometimes I'm not sure. Like I did a bunch of I'm just doing random colors of whatever's here on my desk, and sometimes it's just a little funky. Okay. You guys are going to be just like, what? This is way too easy. Why have I not done this before? You know, it'd be really cool. Like, one of the things I was thinking of, because I started doing these, is like just do little motifs and then attach them and then put them like in a little frame or something. That's my next thing. But okay, so I have these two guys right here, and you can just stitch them together. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you have these offset or not, your bumps. These are the same. I'm going to go like in here and maybe go around like 2 legs of this weaving. Pull that through and then maybe do the same thing here. And then I will go. I tried to do it on the outside of my legs or my warps here. So if you have the bumps, try to go through these loops that are on the end and on the outside of this. Obviously, like the flatter you get, the better, right? So maybe you want to like go through here, and then you're just going to do this all the way across. There you go. And you can sew them together this way. Another way you could do this is you could whip stitch it if you feel so inclined. And I can show you that on the same piece here. But see, I'm going to keep it loose so you can kind of see. That's what we got going on there. And I mean, if you're doing it in the same yarn and you kind of like pull it together so it's a little bit closer, you're not gonna see those. Like I could pull this and you don't really see much of the black in there, right? So it's one way to kind of make it so it's maybe, I don't want to say invisible because I don't really feel like it's invisible, but relatively. Like I said, there's nothing stopping you from actually sewing these together on a machine if you wanted. You know, you would do it just like you would do anything. Hold them together here and try to get as close to this as possible. This warp thread that's right here running through. And sew that together. And then your pieces, you know, you'll have the seam on it, but you'll know where your squares meet. So there's that. If you wanted to whip stitch it, for those like who don't know what a whip stitch is, this one is when you're going like, I'm going through a couple legs here, then I'm going across, I'm going through a couple legs here, and then we're kind of doing like this weird stair-steppy thing in between, right? If you're going to go to a whip stitch, which I'll do on this half, let's just put my thing through here. You can hold your stuff together like this and literally just like, whoopsies. I'd probably do this the opposite direction if I was doing this myself, where you're just gonna like, okay, I'm just gonna make like a spiral through those. And then you have that, which also, I mean, doesn't look bad. If you're using the same color yarn, you're fine. You're gonna see some of these like legs and stuff in between, but you know, like I said, it depends on what you're doing. Depends on what type of effect you're going for. whether you would use something like that or not. In general, for me personally, because of the nature of these squares, I would probably do this crochet join or this crochet join, but that's my own personal preference. You know, the choice is yours. It's your project. You do what you like. So there you have like two different types of joins right there for sewing joins. But you can also sew with thread. So this particular piece here that I had done, I actually whip stitched it with sewing thread. So you can't really see, I don't know how much of it you can see on this particular piece here. You can see some of my threads here. So what I did was I held two squares together and I made a little pocket. Okay. And I whip stitched it all the way around here on these three sides. Okay. And then I'm turning it inside out. This is how you make a chicken for you folks who want to make a chicken. So you turn it inside out like this. I have some ends sticking out. This is like such, I don't want to say trash yarn. This was like, you know, when you're experimenting during a spinning class and you get like free stuff and you're just kind of like messing about. That's what this is. Okay. So I want to make a chicken. I've made my little pocket. Here's my little nugget pocket. Okay. So then what I would do is I would put in some eyes, and those eyes would go like right here in one corner. Okay. So you're going to put some safety eyes in here. You're going to do it on both sides. And that's where the eyes are going to go. Then you're going to pop up to this corner right here. And you're going to grab onto some yarn. And this is like kind of a thick, thin yarn. So it's very sort of haphazard put together. But hopefully you'll get the point. So you'll start up here and then you'll do like a couple crochets. So like do like a half double, double, half double, and make the little crown, you know, for your chicken. So you'll have the little red bit up here. You'll have the eyes right here. And then what happens is that you need to make a little tail. You can make little feet too if you want to. And crochet little feet, I would do that last. I would do the tail first. So basically what you end up doing at this point then is, do I have any fluffy stuff here? I don't know if I do. That's okay. I don't have my fluff nearby, but you have this, because it's hard to explain when you're just saying, oh, you make this and then you squish it the other direction. So you would stuff this so it's nice and fat, and then what you're going to do is see where this seam is, you're going to take it and you're going to fold it in half. So you're making this triangle. Okay. And then you're going to sew your triangle shut, and it's going to be fluffy and fat, right? And you're going to make a little tail on the end here, and you can do like a half double, double, half double, double, half double, double, or whatever. You know, make like a little zigzaggy. And then you would have your little chicken, and it would have the eyes here and the crown here, and you can make the little tail here, and then you could stick little feet on it if you wanted. You don't have to. I've seen plenty without the feet. Just a tail and a crown and some eyes. And there you go. And instead of, like, not that I want to disparage anybody, but instead of buying a pattern for a granny square and wondering how they attach it for a chicken, you can literally just pin loom squares and make a chicken out of pin loom squares. So that's how that goes. But this one I hand sewed with Gooderman sewing thread. So that is also another way to attach those. And then this is going to be a short one today because this is just easy peasy stuff. I want to talk about this. So this is my Baba Yaga. And I was just messing around because I've been doing cross stitch lately. And I like to do things with my hand spun. And I thought to myself, wow, pin loom, that's pretty cool. It automatically gives you a very similar fiber to what you would get for a cross stitch. So I decided to try to cross stitch on this. And so I made my little Baba Yaga house with a little eye on it. It's got little feet here. And this, basically what this is this is, I don't know, is this like a sport weight variegated yarn, plain weave. Okay. And then I took black sock yarn, so fingering weight yarn in black, and I literally just cross stitched on here. So in case you were wondering, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all these squares that I have? You could cross stitch on them. And it's super duper easy to do. So that's a lot in a very little bit of time. But hopefully this will give you some idea of why it's fun to make pin loom squares. It's great, especially if you're a spinner. If you want to sample your yarn and see what it might look like woven up, then you've got this. And like I said, I have stuff in different types of yarn. So for example, some of the stuff that I spun that my friend Nicole made the bats for. Let me show you this. This was the yarn I had to start with. And it was so beautiful. And I knew as soon as I started making these squares that I wasn't going to have enough to make something substantial. For example, I'm using my shawl as an example. The shawl that I want to make calls for 78 squares. The way that I'm altering it, I have 91 squares. And then I have the shawl itself has a zigzag around the neckline. I didn't want the zigzag, so I made the half bias portions to put in there. I don't necessarily have a pattern for this, but I knew I wanted to have enough squares that I could make something fairly substantial. So like, let's say I wanted to make a vest or something. I don't think 50 squares is going to cut it. So I'm like, okay, how can I extend the life of this yarn? Or, you know, spin something that would coordinate with it. So I started off with the pink and black, and that's what I had. And then I ended up going to this green and bluey, yellowy color. And as you can see, like, I mixed some of the bluey and yellowy with some of the pink. Some of these pink squares that all came from the same skein of yarn all look different. Like, some of these are light. I'm not even grabbing, like, some of these are really all from the same color bit here. But like, in going through some of these, you'll see that there's a huge difference between some of the same skeins of yarn. Some might have a little bit more of this turquoise in it. Some might be very dark and have a lot of black. I was really kind of a fan of some of the much lighter ones, but look at here's a very dark one right here. This one has a lot of gray in it. And so you can see, like, they're all in the same family. And like I said, many of these came from the same skein. All of these pink ones all came from the same skein. But you can see where you're sampling some of this and you're like, wait a minute, okay, I have this section here that's got a lot of like this light yellow, and then it's got some electric blue in here, right? But this on camera looks more subdued and like a gray, right? Than, let's say, this one that has the same colors in it. But clearly you can see that more of the black fiber fell into this one. So I wanted to take those natural things that I got from my skein of yarn and the different effects that it produced based on where I was in that skein of yarn and make like a sibling skein like it and try to find ways to incorporate those two together. So this particular pink skein did have a like little tiny bits of like an aqua in it. There was some gray. Oh, here it is. So this aqua here was actually in this skein of yarn. And so this is kind of what I took as my inspiration to then make the other yarn. So here's what I'm working with. These two different types of yarn. And you can see like these are like a heavy worsted. Almost, yeah, heavy worsted. We'll call it heavy worsted. But you can see like this does have some of that aqua in it. And so I wanted to get something that coordinated with that. So then what I started doing was once I started doing the aqua one, I was like, okay, oh, here's another one. How can I incorporate these together so I can make them look like they're supposed to go together, right? Some of these light ones are really fun here. So I wanted to make it look like it went together. So then what I started doing was once I started spinning the aqua color, I then would warp the pin loom in the aqua. So I would do 3 passes of the aqua colored yarn, and then I would go in with 1 strand of the pink and go back and forth. And so that way it was picking up a little bit of this pink here. But when you put them all together from both color families here, it looks cohesive, right? So, oh, let me see if I can find a darker one. Oh, here's one. Here's a surprise. Look at this one. This is the same pink skein that this one is here. So it's really kind of fascinating to see, like, especially when you're doing something that's more of an art yarn type spin. And let's just say, because some people are very methodical about their spins and they're planning out their colors and whatever. These were just fun spins for me. I wasn't planning anything. So now I have all these different colors, and then I have these coordinating squares that look like they're meant to belong. So I have so many squares. As you can see, there's a ton of them that I don't quite have a project for yet. If I were able to get enough to make myself like maybe a crop sweater, I think that would be super fun. But with that being said, I live in Southern California and climate change is real. And how often am I going to get a chance to wear wool in Southern California? Not often. Like the sweater that you see me wearing right now has some alpaca in it. And that's what gives it the mohair-y kind of halo. I'm allergic to mohair, so I can't wear it. But I'm wearing alpaca. And this has short sleeves, so, you know, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. But I kind of just want to make a big, cozy, like, sweater to just take a nap in. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, I'll have enough of these to make some kind of boxy something or other. And they're so beautiful and sparkly too, which I don't know if that even it gets picked up on camera, but there's like sparkles in it, and it's so pretty. So pretty. So even if you're messing around and you have just trash yarn, I shouldn't call it trash yarn. Like I said, no yarn is trash, but like I have this puke green spun from, I don't know where this came from, and what the hell am I gonna do with it? I'll make a chicken. Like, you know, I don't know where I put that. I had a ball of it was like that yellow color that I have, I'm going to make chickens out of that too. So like if I'm just messing about, like here's some of my old spins. Here's a like a wine colored purple with sparkles in it. That could be a chicken. Why not? It's a fancy chicken. Or I could make, hell, if you want to use these as coasters, use them as coasters. But they're fantastic. And I never thought in a million years I would get so into pin loom weaving, but it is a lot of fun. It's very relaxing. And it's just kind of cool to see how your yarn turns out, especially if you have something that's a variegated yarn or, is a hand spun fun yarn, art yarn. Why not? It's cool. And you can, I don't know, you can make all kinds of stuff out of this stuff. So I hope you have fun doing pin loom weaving and making like a bazillion different things. Here's a little Christmas tree. And if you have any questions, you can totally hit me up. I'm on social media like everywhere, but mostly on Blue Sky these days. So if you have any questions, you can ask. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for my next series of craft things, but I think it might be rope making. I'm trying to decide. So that's it for today. And that's my phone ringing. So I guess that marks the end of this video.